Lagos never sleeps, but lately it's been waking up to the sound of demolitions, from houses to commercial buildings. A lot has been happening. Welcome to another episode of Alpha Podcast. I'm your host, Chioma, and here with me is my co-host,
Oluwasheo. It's so much excitement to be back here on today's episode of Alpha Podcast. So today, we'll be diving into an interesting topic which says causes of current demolition in Lagos and how to avoid them.
And today we have a guest, one of the real estate experts. He has been here before and we are glad to have him back here again today. The CEO of King's Court Properties, Mr. Adejare Enitan. Welcome to the
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me because this place is home for me.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, sir.
My special support me here. And
Okay.
thank
That's
us
your
for
value, sir.
Thank you very much, Oluwasheo. Thanks, Ms. Choma.
Thank you, sir. So my first question is, why are so many houses and properties suddenly being marked for demolition? What is really behind it? Why?
Okay, I'm going to start by reacting to that choice of word suddenly. No government wakes up and suddenly mark properties for demolitions. The first thing we need to understand basically is that Lagos is a planned state. And I've said it times without number for those who care to listen that if you are investing in Lagos, you need to understand what we call the Lagos Master Plan. Now, the Master Plan basically talks about the plan that government have for every region. Now, in this Master Plan, they have stipulated places that are reserved for parks and gardens. They have stipulated places that are meant for waterways, drainage channels, and also in this Master Plan, other places where they will have maybe hospitals, institutions, and let's say residential and commercial properties. And when you say suddenly, the saddest part of it basically is that a lot of people invest in real estate without understanding the plan. So what is tagged as suddenly is just less like can be described as a situation of clear violation of what government plan. And whenever your investments or your structures interrupt government plans, it attracts reaction.
That means this plan you're talking about has been there for years before they execute their plan. It has been there, or they just generate it.
No, it has been every area in Lagos has its plan. And
Since when?
even from the inception, how I got to know about this master plan basically was that when I was residing in Surulere, there was a demolition that happened, and the normal outrages and reactions just like what we're having also happened. And one particular thing that struck me basically was that the officers that embarked on those demolition brought out the plan and said, "This is what government have marked for this location. This is where we're supposed to have waterways. This is where we're going to have the canal." And there is a direct infringement on this. And basically, when your building contradicts the plan, basically demolition is inevitable. So I think what we should focus more basically is buying and building in accordance to what the plan government have.
Well, I have a question regarding that.
Yes.
I'm talking about the structural planning has been existing,
Yes.
for years and all of that. Don't you think another new infrastructure might have to come in,
Okay.
on a long term without planning within?
Okay, I'm still going to revert back to what I said. Now, under the master plan, there's what we call zoning regulations. And basically, it is very important that we look at this. Now, under the zoning regulations, there are places that have been stipulated for residential, places that have been stipulated for commercial, and places that have been stipulated for other activities. Now, what happens basically is that now I will fault the Lagos state government for one reason. Now, the reason basically is that most of real estate investors or people who have issues with demolitions did not have access to all this information. Like for instance, now, if you are privileged, I've been to Alausa Ministry of Lands because I've done several surveys and I've done a lot of due diligence. Now, what happens basically is that there is something like a map, a geographical map of everywhere in Lagos. Okay. Now, when the Honorable Commissioner of Environment, in the person of Mr. Tokubo Lawal, when he was talking about the contact demolition, if you can recall vividly, he had to play a drone video, and from that drone video, you would have seen that what was on that drone footage was a reflection of the plan government had for that area. So, what I would say is responsible for most of this demolition is that many investors don't have access to this, and sometimes too, if you don't consult widely, you may not have access to all this information. So, what must be done to avoid similar cases of demolitions like this is that everybody must have access to this plan, because this plan shows the zoning regulations, residential, commercial, parks and gardens and that. And also in that plan, I must also state that there's what we call building setbacks. Okay, the plan also stipulates the number of setbacks that is required for commercial activities, number of setbacks. Okay, setback to canal, setback to waterways, setback to waterfronts, setback to a main road, and setback to let's say lagoon and the like. So all these things are stipulated. Now the thing basically is that many people don't dig deeper. Basically, now if you are buying properties in Lagos, there is one important thing that you need to know. Now, a lot of people think that investing in Lagos is more or less like a normal day-to-day thing. No, it doesn't work that way. Now, what your town planner does, because many people usually relate due diligence. They actually keep principal officers. You think when you are doing your due diligence, number one, you need a town planner, you need a licensed surveyor, and a property lawyer. Now, the combination of all these three will give you the present and the future projects that will come in your location where you want to invest. So, if you have been able to combine the services of those ones, I can assure you that your investment will not infringe on some of those things. Are we together? So
Yes.
that's basically what needs to be emphasized on as you invest. Because you see, Lagos is a very delicate state, and the reason why it has not been business as usual, everybody can attest to the fact that recently there's been a lot of massive infrastructure. Now there's a real construction that is coming in. Of course, trust me, there's going to be an outreach, a lot of crime, a lot of whatever. That obviously is a clear infringement of the plan. So for us to have a critical understanding, we need to revert back to the plan, do our own due diligence, and understand what government intends to do and how they intend to do that. Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for the explanation.
You're
It was so
welcome.
deep. I just think the government needs to create a platform that could make the access easy for everyone intending
Okay.
to, to invest or buy.
There's a ministry in Alausa for that.
Oh, really?
There is.
That's nice.
Basically, before there used to be some form of contradictions. I don't know if I'm permitted to say this, but I'm live. Now, before, when you want to do your own due diligence, there's the office of the Surveyor General and there's the office of the Land Bureau. And sometimes there've been issues where they will say that the report you get from the office of the Surveyor General and the Land Bureau most times are conflicting. But I think what they've been able to do, basically, okay, is that they've been able to harmonize, the report. That means that what you are getting from the office of the Surveyor General also tallies. So to an extent, I think Lagos State have been able to do a good job towards that regard. But the most important of all that I would say basically is that those informations are available only for the fact that they are restricted. So if you don't go through the normal, avenues
Okay.
and the land channels,
It's not be general.
exactly. Yes.
I get that.
Yes.
Thank you for
You're
that,
welcome.
sir. Okay, so I'll proceed in Hatsy.
Okay.
Are these demolitions caused by government urban planning, or are they the result of land ownership problems?
Okay. The question is quite diverse, and I'll try as much as I can to be as explicit and to be as simple as possible. Now, when it comes to demolitions, a lot of factors are responsible, or let me say, a lot of factors might be responsible.
Okay.
The first, basically, is that whenever government wants to do any infrastructural project, basically, a lot of people need to understand the setback regulations, which is very, very important. Because you see, what happens in Lagos is that many people assume, okay, that for the fact that the land is available, okay, they can encroach and do whatever they like. Now, with this current real construction that is coming on, basically, even before they started the project, I went further by asking questions, and I found out that there was a plan, and there's a law, there's a regulation. I don't know if this regulation is applicable in other states. Now, the regulation basically says that government is at liberty, okay, to enforce a right of way enforcement, like a right of way regulations. Like, let's say, for instance, for a pen, government can say the normal setback for this particular road is 20 meters. As an investor, you should not work with that 20 meters, because you see, that 20-meter right of way is subject to review. And that is why, now, if you're familiar with the terrain of that Epe Ijebu, basically in Abeokuta, under their own land regulations, they have stipulated that government will be enforcing a 1.5 meters setback from the road, because the road that was being constructed are narrow roads. So there might be, like what we're having now,
Yeah.
we want to have a train coming in, and of course, because of that train, there might be possible expansion and some other things. So if you are investing in Lagos,
Expanded road, or
yes, roads are subject to expansion.
Really?
Road acceptance. So you cannot say because this road is like, let's assume that the road size is
Like
maybe
after the Bell Road, there will be another road. Is that what you know?
now let's say for instance, use this Lekki Ekpe road as a case study.
Okay.
What we have there is not to 10 meters, if I'm corrected.
Yeah. Okay.
The entire road.
Okay.
The road is not
Yeah,
as
okay,
wide.
yeah.
You will notice that there's a what do you call it? A walkway. A walkway.
Yeah.
Now, people are building immediately close to the walkway, which is wrong. It is wrong. Now, under the Lagos State regulations, you are supposed to give some certain meters. The people that got it right, have you been to ShopRite Ogotedo?
Yeah.
Those are the ones maintaining that setback regulations. You will observe that from where ShopRite is to the main road, it's far. And it's not just that. They actually followed the normal setback rule, but they also did a projection that if peradventure in the future, government says they also, because you see, every place is subject to expansion at every time. So it does not matter whether you have a C of O, the governor's consent. The safest you are supposed to do, the safest strategy is that if government is saying, like for instance now, the Lagos Calabar Coastal Road, it was generally announced that the setback is 150 meters. The people are okay, 150 meters. If I were to be an investor, I would add an extra 50 meters to 150 meters. Say, allocate me at 200 meters from the previous setback. So what is happening? Most of the demolitions are coming because of urban development, and they are being a call to government because of this rapid traffic. So in a place that is prone to traffic, you don't need the soothsayer to tell you that government will review options of expanding the road. So as an investor, what you're supposed to do is that if government says my setback is 50 meters, you have observed the 50 meters. My dear brother says I had more. So if peradventure something happens, because if you are investing very close to the road, be prepared that for any eventualities in the future. So not necessarily demolitions, but in situations whereby if you have your title, you'll be compensated. But sometimes what you get may not even match up with the current value of the property.
I was about to ask you that.
Exactly. I've had instances. Now, some of the places that has been taken in Ekpe, I don't know if I'm permitted to say this one. Most of the people whose land were demolished in some parts of Lekki, another part of Lekki, we are going to have a resettlement scheme in Ekpe. So the people whose property has been taken will be resettled in some places in Ekpe. So you can imagine someone that's
the property that were taken in
Lekki, Aja, Sokotedo, majority of the people with title,
They have to resettle them back.
they can resettle them.
Government
Government is at liberty to choose
yeah.
where they want to resettle you.
Yeah. Okay. But they won't be compensating like
The land, where they will resettle, where you will be resettled is a compensation.
That's it.
It's not losing it completely.
You get something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's just
They have the right to make you lose it.
that's just the way the so it's very important that if you're doing real estate in Lagos, you must know how it works. Not just the proximity. You must know the regulations that governs the operation. It's very important. Yeah, it is.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
So my own question is, many people say I bought my land legally, yet their building are still demolished. How does that happen?
Well. Now let me quickly say this. I'm not saying those people are lying, and I'm not also affirming that what they are saying is true. There was a scenario of the recent demolition that happened in Oral Estate, and one of our investors reached out to me. The man was so worried, and one of the things he said is that he claimed to have bought his property legally, and the issue was raised in Arise News. And I love the fact that the Commissioner of Environment was live, and there was a confrontation, an open confrontation that, okay, I bought this, I did this, why did government collect this? Now, the point basically is what some people call legal may be born out of ignorance. Now, it becomes extremely difficult, okay, for you to buy things legally and government takes it from you. I'm not trying to exclude a scenario whereby the investor says I bought this legally. Upon a deep investigation, we found out that the documents that were projected to be the actual documents of the property were not tallying to the geographical coordinate of that place. See, I've witnessed a scenario, okay, whereby people will fly coordinates, so they can pick a coordinate of a location in a place whereby government has not given title.
Just like what happened with in Abuja. between Wike and the general, the army general, something.
I would not want to
That
go.
they said the property was not supposed to be for so thing, and he was trying to use it for what the government did not approve. Something like that can also lead to
It is relatable, but I would want us to confine our arguments to what is happening in Lagos.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of political tension to what could be the actual thing.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say basically is that I've seen people provided property documents, and upon deeper investigations that they are fakes. I've seen fake COOs before. I've seen fake building approvals before.
And it can be proven that it's fake.
So what fault is that?
Now, the point basically is that, you see, this is where you need to consult widely if you are doing real estate in Lagos.
How do we know we are consulting from the right people?
Someone can issue you a COO, and the COO might have not even passed through some entire process. In fact, there was a COO that was issued that Surveyor General clearly stated that he was not aware. So there are some personnel in government offices that offer fake COOs.
Whoa.
I've seen instances whereby some people will give you survey, and that survey does not have a lodgement or record copy in lands.
So how do we attack such, like, if
Now, what you must now do basically is that this is where you need an experienced agency to dig deeper. Now, there was a scenario of a couple that was scammed, I think over 300 million in a house they bought in Lekki, only for them to find out that the COO that were presented were fake. People forged documents. Now, I'm not saying that people who claim that they have documents and government demolish it are lying. What I'm trying to say is that in that kind of scenario, there are higher chances of fraudulent documents. They portray it. Somebody has approached the company I was working with before and said, okay, we can help you do a survey that will only last for 2 years. So you use that survey to sell some properties, and if they go and check, they will find it. So there are a lot of manipulations that happen.
that's sad.
So the most important thing you must now do to prevent scenarios like this is that you must consult widely. There are offices to verify COOs. There are offices to verify survey. There are offices to even verify approvals.
So is it safe to say once have a lawyer can help with those processes?
That is the job of a property lawyer. So they know the appropriate offices. Of course, we also know some of these offices, but sometimes because of the fact that a lawyer will charge you more, I'd rather give it to the lawyer to do this. So the job of the lawyer is to verify, because there have been instances whereby people can even use COOs that have been used as collateral in banks and sell it to you.
Oh, that's deep.
It is very important. So it is important for you to buy a COO that have been used as collateral, and the person that used as collateral is unable to pay the loan. So it's either you pay the loan or you lose your property to the commercial banks. So in scenario where people claim that they have the right document and government, that scenario basically, I'm still yet to experience that. I'm not saying it is not possible, but I'm trying to say that out of 10% of people who claim to have document, is either they have the fake document or they have been scammed. So it is very important, because you see, if government gives you approval, they give you COO, and they come back to take that property. Now they are even on the verge of losing more, because number one, their credibility is at stake, and number two, they will have to compensate you more. So government does this job. They don't wake up say they want to start the money property. In fact, in some places where some people claim that the required notices were not given to them, is a lie. There have been people that have been going to, but you see, sometimes because of the fact that as humans we're emotional beings, we may want to read emotional whatever to read. So that is what happens. So that is why it is very important that if you are doing Lagos, please consult widely. It's very important to do
That's
so.
a deep and clear explanation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So let me proceed in asking, what are the common mistakes people make when buying land that later leads to demolition issues?
Okay. Number one common mistake that many people make is not understanding zoning regulations. Zoning regulations is very important. You see, the zoning regulation clearly tells you what is obtainable and what could be the chances. In fact, the zoning regulation tells you your higher chances of retaining that property and your chances of losing that property. That's number one. Number two, I would say another mistakes that many people make when they are investing in Lagos basically is that some people even find it extremely difficult to do a proper due diligence. See, to me, it is ridiculous for you to spend millions. This due diligence we are saying that we're talking about, how much does it cost? Some due diligence, depending on who is handling it, some is not even more than 50,000. So some investors will prefer to be penny wise, okay, and they will not do what they need to do. Now, when situations like that comes in, okay, it becomes a scenario. So it is very important that due diligence is very important. Now, when you talk about due diligence, there are different kind of due diligence. There is environmental due diligence, there is approval due diligence, there is title due diligence, and there is litigation due diligence. So when you do all this, all encompassing, you have your chances of losing your investment is low. So if you don't do the due diligence, it's increases your chance of losing the property. The most important thing, not going through the right organization. Now you see, I've seen instances whereby a company will come and tell you, I have 200 acres of excision. I personally have I've done some due diligence. I find out that out of the 100 acres, the actual excision on that estate might not be more to 3 acres or 4 acres. So now there are companies that compromise their standards. I've seen instances whereby these guys will just do anything from it, and there are some companies, that have a legacy that binds their existence. So if you are investing, you also need to be mindful of that. So there are lots, but I'll just summarize those 3. Okay, not consulting wisely, not understanding, the zoning regulations, and not buying from the right real estate development company like Alpha. Yes, the reason why I have been very close to Alpha basically is that I appreciate their level of transparency, and their level of reception is also one. I'm not marketing them, but I'm just trying to tell you my own personal experience. I have clients with Alpha, and I can tell you basically that they will go extra lengths, okay, to do the right diligence and protect you as an investor. But there are some companies that they don't care. Should I start mentioning real estate development companies that have sold lands to people and they are presently in Canada and UK? Let me stop there.
Okay, my question is, can you explain in simple terms the difference between excised land, gazette land, and government acquired land, and how that affects ownership security?
Okay. Excised, gazette, is very simple. An excised land, okay, is a parcel of land that the government has given to a particular family or a community.
Okay.
For their own personal use. It is also important to state clearly that when government gives excised land, they don't give everything. That's a topic obviously for another day.
Because I have a lot of questions.
Now, the moment that excision has been published, there is a record in the Lagos State Ministry of Lands where they'll say, okay, this parcel of land, okay, was excised to this community on this particular day, and this is the officer that signed the excision, and this was the year the excision was signed. The moment you can find that excision in a copy, it becomes a gazette.
Does it have expiry date?
No, it doesn't.
So an excised land is forever.
It's forever, peradventure, if government chooses not to revoke it. Now, there are circumstances that can lead to government revoking excisions, but it's very rare. Very, very rare.
But an excised land can still also be, you can convert it to, the title can change to C of O.
Now, what happens is that this is how it works. If your excision has not been gazetted, you have to go through the process of what? Allocation.
Okay.
Allocation. So let's say you have an excision and it was not gazetted. Like I said, gazette is like this particular land was given to this community on this also date by this also thing. You can trace the excision,
right?
Yes, you can trace the excision to maybe gazette number 4, volume 2, whatever.
Oh.
Okay. So if the excision has been published, it becomes gazette. So with your gazette, just apply for governor's consent.
Okay.
So you can easily process a governor's consent with your gazette. But if it's still excision that has not been gazetted, you apply for government application.
Okay.
That's the difference between
So from excision directly to
government allocation. You apply. It's not like
you can't get CO on it.
now from the allocation, then
The process will keep going.
takes you to CO.
Okay.
But once it is gazetted, just apply for governor's consent and you get both.
Okay.
So that's the differences between both of them.
Okay.
And I responded to all the question.
Okay, there's another one. They said how the government acquired land.
Okay, under the Lagos State land law, it is generally said that all lands belongs to the government. It doesn't matter whether there's this this particular family has this land, they have this parcel of acre and some other things like that. Now, government owns all the land. Now, the place that becomes government acquired lands are places that don't have titles. Like, let's say, for instance, the Akinyemi family, let me use that as an example, have 20 acres of land. Okay, and government now says, okay, fine. The Akinyemi family I want to give you 5 acres as excision. You see that 5 acres of excision becomes the title. The remaining 15 acres that does not have title is government acquired land. In as much as fact that government does not give you a document, if you should trample or you step on those remaining 15 acres that is not either excised or gazetted, then you have trampled of government. So government is at liberty to do everything. And that's why I said basically that I've seen instances whereby if some larger portions of land have titles, if you dig deeper, you find out that not all portions fall inside that title. It's something that from practical field experience I can tell you that is what is happening.
Or is that possible for the person or the family? Sorry, the family rather, to work towards acquiring the remaining and getting it.
If they can afford to pay for it, yes, it is. Now, the reason why some of the titles do not cover the entire land is because of the fact that most of the family cannot afford to pay for everything. And that is why sometimes many of them come into a joint venture, a JV agreement with some real estate company. Okay, we have 20 acres of land. We're able to secure 5. Okay, so we are going to give you this so acres. Okay, I've seen companies enter that kind of agreement. If you can help us pursue and finance our process of either excision or consent. So some people say, okay, fine. If that's the deal, it's okay by me. But the reason why majority of those lands don't fall under the title, 60% of cases are witnessed is that most of those families cannot afford because the cost of payment is
It's not equal.
it's not cheap. So majority of them cannot. That's why sometimes. So the remaining portion that don't have title are the government acquired area. So if you approach government and you can afford to pay them in some situations whereby you don't have a major process, you can afford to pay. They release it. If you cannot, it becomes their property.
So government excision is not a document. Is that is not a document?
No, they are titles.
Okay.
They are land titles. Now, basically, let me explain this way. Okay, excision is a land title. There's a document that you can use to verify it.
Yeah.
If you want to go and check it.
But it's not safe.
It is, depending on where it is located. Now, what determines a place that is safe in Lagos and a place that is safe is interest of government. In areas when you are noticing that government are bringing infrastructures. Now, because of the fact that in some cases, government are not 100% predictable.
Exactly.
So if you want to buy an excise land, if what you can afford to buy is an excise land, my advice basically is go to places where government's interest is not acquired, and of course process your title. But you want to buy a decision in where there's road projects. It's another day.
Thank
you so much, sir.
Thank you.
So let me ask this.
Okay.
What kind of documents or verifications should buyers insist on before paying for any land in Lagos?
Basically, well, you can request for the survey. You can request for, if the land has a C of O, you can also request for the title document, which is the C of O. And then, of course, you can also request for the layout of that estate. Okay, and basically, what the layout does basically is the layout gives you a bigger understanding of what the developer is looking to achieve on that estate. Because of some few experiences I've had, I mostly insist that buyers take their surveyors to site to pick the land information by themselves.
That is a registered surveyor.
Yeah, okay. Well, necessarily does not have to be registered surveyors if you know where to pick your coordinates. Now, the reason why I'm saying that you should pick the land information basically is that I've witnessed a scenario whereby somebody can be using a coordinate of a land. They might be in the same location but different estates because that survey has a title. They will use it for theirs. So if you now take it to another and check it to confirm the title, and you may not be aware that what they're giving you is a survey for another place. So in most cases, I usually advise take your survey and pick your coordinate by yourself to avoid stories and touches.
Okay, so is it safe to say governor's consent and C of O is the highest title?
Well, they've been a lot of, let's say, confusion or whatever. See, what is the difference between the governor's consent and the C of O title? It's because two people cannot own two C of O's. That's what necessitates no governor's consent. I have a land that has a C of O I want to sell to you. The C of O is in my name. It can't come in your name. So one of the easiest way you can choose to prove that you bought property from me is to get the governor's consent. And the governor's consent basically is not like a title. It is just something they sign on your deed. It carries similar information just like what we have in the Gazette. That's all.
Signature.
Do you understand? So to that say they are the highest titles or something. Though they've been this scenario or this conception that is the highest title. But if you choose to perceive it as the highest title, left to you. What I just say is that they are just like titles that every other land properties have.
Okay.
That's just the difference between both of them.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
So, for someone who already owns property,
Okay.
what step can they take now to ensure their land or building is not at risk of demolition in the future?
The first thing they should do basically is I expected them to have done their due diligence to ensure that they are not buying in areas that are committed. Now, it doesn't matter who are sold or what you are buying. If you buy a land in a committed acquisition, there is nothing anybody can do to it. It's just like Wiki said, you cannot judge illegal with legal. So basically, your attention or your focus should be not buying in a committed area. Now, if you have done that, basically take possession. Now, a lot of people find it extremely difficult to take possession of what they bought. Now, how do you take possession? Register the title with them. It's very simple. Like for instance, if you have your deed, there's nothing stopping you from going to Alausa. What I love that Afamac does basically is that Afamac can, I've seen them register title for some people, and there's a section. I think my client's document, the section, the man was saying, I said yes. All you need to just take it to Alausa, pay them, they'll sign, and they've done it. Most companies don't do that. So one of the easiest ways to protect your property is you have bought, you have collected, and this goes to clients that used to wait for 1 year before they pay for everything. In a scenario, where there is no proven document to show that this particular company has transferred interest to a deed of assignment. I'm saying this because I've seen a lot of investors fall into this. If you are buying real estate and you are defaulting, you are not paying, and something happens and you want to say you want to buy land, if you take them to court, if you take a receipt to court to prove that receipt is not a valid proof of purchase, what indicates your valid proof of purchase is that a contract or a deed of assignment. So in a situation where you are delaying, you have already shot yourself. So what you must now do to prevent this is that just register your government, your document with government. That's all.
Also, is it possible that like someone can actually go to Alausa without meeting any family members and then buy land from them?
Now the procedure is quite simple. It depends on the kind of documentation you want to process. For instance,
just an empty space. I saw a space, an empty land, so places. And I don't want to go through the process of meeting the family members and whatever. Just straight to the government.
Does the government sell land
to pay?
Oh, that question is a little bit tricky and ambiguous. Well, what you move in this kind of scenario, what I would suggest basically is that buy from a reputable developer.
No, as a developer, I want to buy land.
Okay.
Yeah,
you don't want to go through the family.
Yeah, just go straight to the government.
See, this as long as it is Lagos, it does not matter whether you bought from government. In as much as fact that land is still in that same community, you will still settle. Now, the point basically is that
the settling will be much more cheaper in settlements than buying. I'll pay you millions and I can settle with what I have.
Well, if they accept it from you,
they'll make a demand, of course.
If they accept it from you, but that idea is brilliant. But in Lagos, whereby you will pay money when you want to build, you pay money when you want to do foundation, you pay money when you want to do decking, you pay money when you want to do roof. I beg, when you buy from government, set for 1 million. Now, the reason for that basically is that if you go through government and you don't settle the ancestral owners, I've seen instances whereby during construction they will disturb you. There might be tendency of you offloading your building material, and before you get there the next day, what's a lot? So I'll just say you maintain that government relationship with also the community. That's the way it works. That's the way it works.
Okay, so that's been so insightful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So finally, I would like to ask, what's your biggest advice to young or first-time investors in Lagos? How can they invest confidently without falling victim to demolition issues?
Okay. Now, basically, investors should not even be worried about demolitions if they are dealing with the right company. You see, this entire, the way they elevated this demolition as if it is the alpha and the omega, to me is very, very annoying. Ideally, a reliable and a competent real estate development company are expected to have done their normal due diligence and ensure that what they are giving their investors is safe. And this is why you can't talk about investment and leave out Afamac. See, as far as I'm concerned, I pray they don't change you. The company invests, and I would say that man, if I've not met him, I would say he's a pastor, because he's He carries the consent of his investor with his heart. He's open. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So basically, you want to invest in Lagos. Lagos is not as bad as it's being portrayed. And that's why sometimes I usually tell people that if you follow everything that you hear on social media, you don't even want to own anything in Lagos. Because you see, trust me, it does not matter what everybody is saying. Ibadan is a very good location. Abeokuta is a very good location. But those are locations like in a situation where you see chicken and fish. Which one would you go for? Chicken. But in some cases, when somebody go for fish, it's because they cannot what afford chicken.
Yeah.
That's how other locations are to Lagos. The kind of infrastructure, the kind of proximity, the kinds of return Lagos offers cannot be quantifiable. I sold the property to a man in Yaba and it was allocated on the 1st of November. As I yesterday, I got a report that apartment has been rented. Trust me, how much did they rent a 2-bedroom in Yaba? 5 million naira. So Lagos has everything. So if you're a young man, you're watching this video and you're saying, hey, they are breaking, are you praying that your own property should be broken? If you work with Alphamark, who already has your concern, there's nothing to worry about. So all the investments I've done with them, what my clients have done with them, I don't even worry. When they say they want to build demolition or do everything, I don't worry, because what they've been able to maintain a standard of integrity that has protected and set them apart from others. So that is it. So whether it is other locations, if you cannot afford Lagos, you can go to Ibadan. But trust me, you will still wish you own something in Lagos 5 years from today. So that's just it.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Section.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we have come to the end of today's episode of Alpha Podcast. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Thank you for coming back once again. Thanks for your insights, for everything.
This is all.
And make sure you smash the like button, share all our episodes that you view, like, comment, and we'll keep on dishing out beautiful podcasts to all of you, our wonderful viewers. Thank you so much, and this is the end of today's episode. Peace.